What do we know about fungi? For instance, they can be formidable pathogens. Most often, they infest insects, particularly termites. Alert termite guards, upon seeing a worker infected by fungi, escort it to the graveyard and decapitate it. Then, 2 guards commit suicide, sacrificing themselves in an attempt to protect the queen in the nest and the colony from infection. Nevertheless, some pathogenic fungi have the ability to bypass this defense. They possess a switch that delays sporulation, so insects are not afraid of the spores, yet the fungi attract them. One termite finds the fungus, others follow, resulting in a Trojan horse. The guards do not even notice anything. As a result, the fungus is transmitted to the queen, who then feeds it to the brood, and the entire colony is doomed to extinction. The mycelium of the fungus envelops all the termites. They mummify and perish. Afterwards, the repelling properties of the spores protect the home from subsequent invasions. This works not only with termites, but also with many other insects, such as ants, fungus gnats, mosquitoes, bed bugs, etc. What's more, millions of people die annually from pathogenic fungi, such as the Aspergillus fumigatus, but more on that later. For now, let's see what else they do to insects. This is the cordyceps fungus, or more precisely, an ant that carries this fungus inside itself. It was recently infected by its spore, but its behavior has already become suspicious. The root system has grown into its muscles. Its body is taken over. Cordyceps overwhelms the victim's brain with chemicals, turning the insect into a zombie, forcing it to seek out the perfect conditions for its cultivation. It must be light enough and moist enough for the parasite growing inside. For such behavior manipulation, cordyceps forms a complex cellular network inside the ant's body, which wraps around all internal organs and chemically controls every corner of its organism. Yet interestingly, it does not penetrate the host's central nervous system. The ant clings to a leaf with a deadly grip, and cordyceps reveals its true nature by emerging outside. The fruiting body of the fungus grows out of the ant's head. From this sac, millions of spores will be released into the air. After 3 weeks of growth, cordyceps begins to disperse these spores, infecting even more ants. And so it goes on and on. Cordyceps can easily wipe out an entire colony, and it simply disappears. But the danger threatens not only ants. Many other insect species also fall victim to it, as there are over 600 types of cordyceps in the world, each specializing in a particular type of insect, a very frightening pathogen. Fortunately, it cannot attack mammals because they have too high a body temperature, which the fungus cannot tolerate. There are unique cordyceps species that not only spread spores, but also build themselves a home. For instance, they take control of a caterpillar, preventing it from becoming a butterfly. They overwinter this way, gradually feeding on the victim, and when the snow melts, they start spreading spores to catch a new caterpillar. Cordyceps has been controlling insect behavior for 48 million years, as evidenced by a fossil found in Germany. Due to its unique biological history, this fungus often becomes the protagonist of science fiction books and films, responsible for a zombie apocalypse. However, it is not dangerous to humans. On the contrary, for scientists, this fungus represents great interest because it potentially can become a valuable raw material for the production of medicines, including cancer treatment. So even to such a monster, we can find a good use. The thing is, the fungus releases substances that protect it from pathogenic organisms, which is amusing because it is a pathogen itself. This protective mechanism is of interest for producing immunomodulating, anti-infective, and anti-cancer drugs for humans. Because of this, cordyceps farms have appeared today, where this fungus is cultivated. As for nutrition, a special substrate enriched with necessary additives and insects is prepared for it. This pleasure is quite costly, making cordyceps one of the most expensive mushrooms to cultivate. Fungi similar to cordyceps could replace a significant share of chemical pesticides as an environmentally rational and economically scalable product. It's amusing, but while some fungi kill ants, others are cultivated by ants themselves. This is Leucoagaricus. This mushroom lives 5 meters underground and feeds on fresh leaves from trees. Yes, 5 meters below the surface, it consumes fresh tree leaves. To reach them, an enormous colony of leafcutter ants works for it. Millions of them provide the fungus with its food, and in return, the fungus cultivates tiny mushrooms as food for the ants. The fungus emits chemical signals to the ants, indicating the type of leaf it wants to consume. Scouts set out with these instructions. Worker ants travel hundreds of meters in search of the suitable type of leaves. Today, the choice fell on a young bixa tree. Only a few years old and still struggling to reach the light-filled heights, it can't afford to lose a single leaf. But the ants don't care. Working together, they can tear apart a large leaf in just a few minutes. The sound of cutting attracts even more ants. If left unchecked, they would cut everything down. Then, Then the pieces are taken directly to the fungus. These ants can move at a speed of 2 meters per minute and carry weights 10 times their own. It's like a river of leaves flowing across the ground, and this is just part of a vast network stretching for kilometers throughout the forest. To avoid congestion, worker ants dig trenches around obstacles. Thousands of pieces are delivered every hour to the waiting fungus. With such a steady stream of food, the fungus grows rapidly, filling all the space in its habitat. Thus, the ants have to dig out more space. This results in their nests becoming very large, the size of a bus. The fungus is in a good position. Unlike the bixa tree, it seems to have little chance of survival. But this is where the most interesting part begins. The tree fights back. It starts using chemical warfare. The tree fills its leaves with a poisonous toxin that can kill a distant fungus. But the ants don't understand this, and as they bring leaf pieces to the fungus, they unwittingly poison it, following the tree's cunning plan. This attack is from afar. When the poison takes effect, the ants sense their fungus weakening, and they respond to its signals by switching to another leaf source. Thus, the plant's chemical response forces the ants to switch from one tree to another. It's like a strike and counterstrike. This allows enough leaves to remain uneaten for the tree to recover. As we all know, not only plants can be toxic. In this regard, mushrooms can certainly compete with them. This is Cortinarius rubellus, commonly known as the deadly webcap. This is a very intriguing mushroom. It closely resembles some edible mushrooms, which leads to it being mistakenly consumed at times. And here's where it gets interesting. If you eat it, you will be perfectly fine for 2 to 3 weeks without any symptoms. You won't feel anything unusual, and then you will simply die a horrific death. The thing is, these mushrooms contain a very insidious poison known as aurelinine, which has a very long latent period, sometimes up to 3 weeks, before symptoms similar to common flu appear. This often leads to misdiagnosis by doctors and incorrect treatment, during which the toxin causes kidney failure and death. Science was unaware of this until the mid-20th century, so those who died from these mushrooms did not understand the cause. It was only after 19 people died simultaneously from these mushrooms in the Polish city of Bydgoszcz that an investigation revealed the cause. Still, people today often get poisoned by this mushroom. Another interesting case occurred with a different mushroom in rural areas of Yunnan province in southwestern China. Every year during the rainy season in midsummer, June to August, at an altitude of 1,800 to 2,400 meters, seemingly healthy people's hearts would suddenly stop for unexplained reasons, leading to death. This kept happening until the death toll reached 400 people. The incident was named the Yunnan Sudden Death Syndrome. An investigation began. It took scientists 5 years until 2010 to understand that the culprit was a small white mushroom growing on decaying wood only in this part of China. It was found that families collecting mushrooms for sale were eating these small white mushrooms as they had no commercial value. 2 amino acids present in the mushrooms turned out to be toxic. After this information was disclosed, people in the province stopped dying from these mushrooms as the government ensured that almost every person was made aware of this. But why does nature make mushrooms poisonous? There are several theories. The hypothesis that they protect themselves from pests is criticized, as various creatures that are immune to their toxins consume even poisonous mushrooms. Therefore, a more substantiated theory is that different mushrooms produce different chemicals, and given there are thousands of them, it's not surprising that some of these chemicals are toxic to us. For example, we love sugar, but for many animals, sugar is toxic, like for cats. This doesn't mean sugar is inherently toxic, it's just that not everyone can digest it. The same goes for us with poisonous mushrooms, so we shouldn't curse them. Moreover, if mushrooms didn't exist, neither would we. And here's why. As is known, mushrooms are neither plants nor animals. They are a separate kingdom of organisms, but in terms of biological properties, they are closer to animals than plants. Despite the association of mushrooms and fungi with death and decay, they do the exact opposite. Mushrooms perform an important recycling function. They decompose dead organisms and return all these nutrients to the cycle of life. Mushrooms seem to be at the very end of the food chain, but also at the very beginning. Without mushrooms, plants would suffocate the earth. Mushrooms devour death and thereby give life. By recycling dead plants, they make the soil suitable for new plants and animal life. This is the true digestive tract of the forest. But even though mushrooms devour all organic matter, 800 million years ago, before the appearance of this very organic matter, when the earth was barren, the first terrestrial fungi fed on something else. They ate rocks, literally. As strange as it sounds, fungi extracted minerals from rock. This helped kickstart life on land for everyone. The fact is that fungi managed to turn rocks into nutrient-rich soil. Their spores release an acid that breaks down the surface of solid rock. Fast-growing threads of mycelium, hyphae, penetrate the rock and extract minerals. Exerting pressure 100 times greater than that in a car tire, the tips of hyphae drill into the rock. This can be called mining on a molecular level. In this way, fungi gradually turned rocks into suitable soil for the emergence of the first plants over millions of years. 500 million years later, a group of algae began to move onto the land prepared by fungi, with which the algae even managed to form a symbiosis. This became the starting point for all terrestrial plants. A big bang in biology. The land began to green. 450 million years ago, the planet was teeming with bizarre creatures, but almost all of them were underwater. On land, there was nothing. Only mosses softened the solid lava, and the riverbanks were covered with simple plants that could not yet grow far from the river since they couldn't store and transport water. In the end, fungi came to the rescue again, finding a convenient path between plant cells. Some even managed to break through inside, creating tree-like systems called arbuscules, through which plants extract the phosphorus they need from fungi in exchange for carbon obtained through photosynthesis. Working with fungi, plants began to thrive, absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. They started changing the composition of the entire atmosphere, paving the way for complex organisms. Since then, almost every plant has lived with the support of a symbiotic fungus. In fact, fungi planted all these plants. With the emergence of plants, new types of fungi also appeared. Subsequent generations of fungi learned to use soil differently than their distant ancestors. Above the ground, they developed fruiting bodies, what we commonly call mushrooms, although in fact, these are just their reproductive organs for producing spores, while below ground is the main body of the fungus, the mycelium, which consists of long threads and forms complex networks that extend deep into the ground, absorbing everything in their path, even penetrating wood. The mycelium releases special enzymes that help it forge a path. One could say that enzymes are the teeth and claws of fungi. Mycelium expands and recycles unnecessary material to use elsewhere. A fungus can migrate to any point in space in search of food. Over hundreds of millions of years of evolution, fungi have become masters of survival. Mycelium is virtually everywhere. It has more networks than our brain has neural pathways and operates similarly to the electrical impulses of electrolytes. It is the most prevalent life form on Earth, essentially being the planet's master, as mycelium is everywhere. When you walk through the forest, there are about 300 fungal threads beneath every step you take. They have formed massive networks, resembling a large web. Scientists refer to mycelium networks as the wood wide web, and not without reason. Trees interact with mycelium and use it as pathways to connect one tree to another. They use it to nourish each other. That is, one tree transfers nutrients to another, using the mycelium as a conduit. Mushrooms, through mycelium, provide tree roots with water and minerals that the trees cannot obtain due to the limited size of their roots. However, mushrooms do not do this out of the goodness of their hearts, but for their own benefit. The healthier the plant, the more sugar it releases during photosynthesis, which is crucial for fungi. This is more than just a transaction, as the mycelial network connects all trees in the forest, providing a comprehensive network for the exchange of all essential substances for the forest. Some trees, known as mother trees, recognize their offspring and direct resources to them, giving their progeny the best start in life. Summer brings danger to forests. Drought. Young trees may suffer as their limited water supply quickly depletes, but the forest network comes to their aid. Large trees with vast water reserves redirect their water to young trees through the fungal network, and you might witness something fantastic. A young tree begins to revive despite the lack of rain. Simply incredible. Recently, scientists discovered that trees send not only nutrients and water through the network, but also chemical and electrical signals, allowing them to interact with each other. Some trees can be selfish, pilfering from their opponents, or even waging war by sending toxins that harm competitors. However, most trees help each other, otherwise they would not survive. They raise the alarm when leaf eaters attack, giving other trees a head start to produce defensive chemicals. So when a herbivore eats the leaves of one tree, not only does that tree start producing toxins to deter the animal, but dozens of surrounding trees do as well. Amazingly, thanks to fungi, the forest acts as if it's not individual trees but a single superorganism. As a result, the better the plants fare, the better it is for fungi. An ideal symbiosis, benefiting the entire world, including us. Theoretically, mycelium can live forever if it has food, which is why the oldest and largest organism on Earth is a fungus living in the Malheur National Forest in the U.S. state of Oregon. This fungus covers an area of 880 hectares, and its age is estimated at 2,400 years. However, this species is parasitic, drawing nutrients from the roots of trees without giving anything in return, leading to mass tree deaths in that area. Yes, not all mushrooms are good. Not all of them consume dead plants. Some feed on quite living ones. And there are those that announce their presence in a terrifyingly beautiful manner. In the African Congo, this phenomenon is known as chimpanzee fire. The mysterious bioluminescent glow becomes brighter as the fungi digest the wood. When they are satiated, they develop organs for reproduction. Each can produce literally billions of spores, and each of these spores can become a tree killer. Nevertheless, we have learned to use the property of fungi to decompose organic matter for our purposes. For example, yeast and fungal malt are used to make beer, wine, cheese, and to bring dough to the desired condition. This ability to decompose things helps us deal with some of our problems, such as environmental pollution, including oil spills. The same properties of fungi are used in medicine, helping us revolutionize this field. For example, penicillin derived from fungi was the first created antibiotic, which has saved millions of lives to this day. The creation of the first antibiotic immediately gave the Allies an advantage in World War II. If out of 1,000 injured Germans, 150 died from gas gangrene caused by bacteria, among the injured Americans, none died from gas gangrene, and all thanks to penicillin. We could achieve much more with fungi in medicine and beyond, but scientists have not yet studied them well. Although today, according to some estimates, up to 1.5 million species of fungi are known, we have studied only 2% of them, and every day many new species are discovered. Some of them are quite surprising. For example, just as there are carnivorous plants with traps, there are also carnivorous fungi in nature with similar tricks. For example, oyster mushrooms, or pleurotus. They severely lack nitrogen, and to compensate for its deficiency, they perform a special trick. From the end of some threads of the mycelium, oyster mushrooms release a small lasso and secrete a powerful toxin. They do this for one reason: roundworms. These microscopic organisms live in wood and are full of nitrogen, which the voracious fungi need. Oyster mushrooms lure the worms into their lasso and then tighten them. The worm is caught and now becomes a meal for the fungus. And this is a very clever bioluminescent mushroom. Some creatures use their lights for mating games. This beetle's glowing spots are designed to impress and attract a mate. Seeing the glow of this mushroom, he thinks he's found her, perhaps hidden inside. But the mushroom plays with him as the glow comes from the mushroom itself. Bewildered, the beetle searches for the female everywhere, and while doing so, gets covered in fungal spores. Exactly what the mushroom needed. Now the beetle will spread these spores wherever he goes next. He couldn't reproduce himself, but helped the mushroom do so. A similar trick is used by the foul-smelling mushroom, known as the anemone stinkhorn, which resembles a red sea star covered in slime. Its disgusting smell of rot, feces, and carrion attracts various flies to spread the spores contained in the slime. Being close to this mushroom, you might think someone died and is decomposing, but no, it's just the mushroom. Another mushroom with similar properties is the red cage. Yes, it is indeed red. The mushroom grows to the necessary size, and then the white membrane begins to crack, allowing the spongy lattice to burst out. It results in a very unusual-looking mushroom that also emits the smell of rotting flesh, trying to stage its own death. Flies are drawn to this smell. The inner surface of the lattice is covered in slime, which gives off such a stench. The gaps in the lattice are large enough for flies to freely fly in and out. They rub against the slime containing the spores, then fly away, spreading the spores far and wide, allowing the mushroom to reproduce and occupy new territories. Within a day, the lattice begins to disintegrate. However, mushrooms most often use a simpler way to spread their spores, via the wind. Literally billions of spores from each mushroom have led to a hidden kingdom ruling all land. They cover everything. They live almost everywhere, even inside us. They are on our feet, in our lungs, on our skin. They are everywhere you touch or go. Every breath you take, you inhale spores from dozens of different mushrooms. Most of these spores are harmless to us, except for pathogenic spores, such as the already mentioned aspergillus, which can kill you if you have a weakened immune system. Even healthy people should not inhale it in large quantities. This also includes black aspergillus, which we use to make citric acid, for which we thank it, but it loves to grow on damp walls and poison the air, so it should be gotten rid of immediately. Nonetheless, completely purifying the air of various spores is practically impossible. Even in an ordinary clean room, there are approximately 500 spores per cubic meter of air. They are everywhere, which is why no matter how carefully you hide food, over time, it becomes moldy because it already had fungal spores on it. If an apocalypse occurs, fungi will definitely survive it. They managed to survive in the most extreme conditions. They even thrived at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant after the disaster, as some species can feed on radiation. It is essential to continue actively researching this kingdom of organisms, as the next discovery could lead to the development of the strongest antibiotic, a potent cancer drug, or even something as trivial as a new beer variety, or something else we don't yet know. Fungi are an unexplored world of mighty ancient organisms. All forms of life are interconnected, and fungi connect them. That's all. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel.